Hello. In this, our first full module of content for the Environmental Control Systems of Buildings course, we are going to open our study of how heating, cooling, and lighting can affect architectural form. We'll start with a broad topic of architecture and society and why exactly we're studying heating, cooling, and lighting. Moving directly into what is sustainable design and finish that section with an architectural approach to sustainable design. Next, we'll move into a discussion of energy and climate, focusing on some different types of vernacular architecture. And in our third segment this week, we'll talk about energy codes. What are they? Which codes apply? And how do you know? So let's start very broad and talk about architecture in general, which reflects the culture, climate, and resources of the time and place in which it was built. So, what specifically is our driving agent of change today in today's culture, climate, and resources? It's sustainability. And what drives sustainability? It's energy consumption. Excess energy consumption um, pushes forth all of the different aspects of sustainability. Why do we care as architects? It's because energy consumption of buildings is a main driver of energy consumption in general. So here's a little pie chart from your textbook. It says buildings are a main cause of global warming because they use about 48% of the energy. I think that's a little facetious. I think the fact that we as humans live our life in the buildings, maybe let's not blame the buildings, maybe let's blame the people that are living in them. But anyway, buildings in general, about 40% of that 48% is for operating the buildings, heating, cooling, lighting. That's what we're studying in this course. About 8% of that 48% of all energy use is for constructing the buildings, the materials, the transportation, the erection of the buildings. So the question then becomes, can we actually address the problem of global warming and sustainability through architecture? The answer is overwhelmingly yes. All right, because that use of energy within buildings is so large, we can actually use architecture to address these problems because it is indeed possible to design sustainable buildings that use very little energy. And here's a couple of examples right here in your text from your textbook. So we're going to be talking a lot about sustainable design this semester, but just as an introduction to the topic, what is sustainable design? My favorite definition is here. Sustainable design is a form of development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So, how specifically can we as architects affect the sustainable design of buildings? Isn't that all the mechanical engineer's job? Turns out not so much. Architects have an enormous influence over the energy consumption of their building. And one way to think about it is this three-tier design approach. Every building you design is going to include all three tiers. Um, but as an architect, we're going to have the most influence in tier one, the basic building design, and by things like building location, orientation, um, basic building elements such as the windows and the walls. We can have enormous effects. And the decisions that are made early in the design process tend to be the ones that have the most impact over the life of the building. But what about those mechanical equipment decisions? It turns out, and let's zoom in here on Tier 3, that even Tier 3 has significant input from the architects. We are in on the discussions of which systems to select and therefore have some influence in this tier also. All right, in this segment, I've tried to give an overview of what we're going to be studying this semester and why. In the next video, we'll go on to talk about climate and architecture.